All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This episode is part of a health series where I invite experts from the health industry to come and talk about things that we should all be aware of and most likely do ourselves. I believe that people treat their money just like they treat their health, and that our greatest asset is our health, both physically and mentally. I hope you get something out of it and share the episode with any friends or family that may benefit. As part of this series, we're talking about many different facets of health. And for me, I've always been very, very passionate about exercise. Exercise is something that a lot of us, most of us actually probably did when we were younger as teenagers. But as we get older, life gets in the way. We get married, we have kids, we have busy jobs, we have busy lives. And we also end up with some health issues. And I actually hear from a lot of people, friends, clients, they'll tell me, I want to exercise, but I'm too old, or my back's done, I can't do anything, or I've got bad knees, I can't, so I thought the perfect person to invite onto the show is an exercise physiologist. And a lot of people have probably never heard of an exercise physiologist. So we've got Andrew Davidson with us, who's also a physiotherapist, to talk about this. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Could you probably start by just explaining what an exercise physiologist is? Because when I first saw the term, because Nick that we had on the other week mentioned to me, oh, you should really have an exercise physiologist as part of the series, and I was like, what's that? So can you maybe explain what that is for those listening to this that maybe haven't heard of that term?
Yeah, and that's common. Like when I was studying exercise physiology, people was always asking me what it was. But pretty much an exercise physiologist is someone who will prescribe exercise instead of medication or other forms of treatment to improve chronic conditions. They'll also help people with improving their physical fitness and mainly overall health and well-being. But it's just it's someone who's done a 4-year university degree, and they've kind of studied as much as they can in terms of conditions like Parkinson's or metabolic conditions, respiratory, cardiac, and then prescribing exercise instead of like giving someone a pill to help that condition, really.
Yeah, so really, it's the purpose of it is just, I guess the idea about it, the idea behind it is that some people can't do certain exercises because of certain conditions. So it's your job to work out what that person can do and what they shouldn't be doing, basically.
Yeah, pretty much to fine tune it and assess what they can do, and then progressively work from there.
Yeah. And just to answer the question, can someone be too old for exercise? Because, I mean, You've seen it probably a million times. You can probably give heaps of examples as well, where someone they exercise when they know they shouldn't, or they didn't realize that they shouldn't, and they injure themselves even more, basically. So it's sort of like one step forward, 4 steps back.
Yeah, usually I'm actually usually slowing people down. They usually want to do more than like they just want to get in there and do things, but it's all about gradual progression over time. And like you said, with people having injury, they might do the wrong thing, so that's a good time to see an exercise physiologist or a physio just to kind of assess and see what they can do.
Okay, so gradual over time. So that's sort of like easing into it, you mean? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like usually when people come into me, say they want to lose weight, they'll go from doing 0 to all of a sudden, I'm going to do an hour a day. And usually I'm the opposite end. I'll talk to them and say, look, like just start with something small, even if it's 10 minutes a day. Because the biggest things that happens in terms of injuries is usually the tendons, and the connective tissues can't handle the quick increase in load.
Yes.
So that's when people get all those niggly injuries. So yeah, as long as you progress the body slowly to a load, usually everyone can do something.
That makes sense. Or I mean, because we've all heard of stories where people so I don't want to mention any names of any gyms, but people that go from doing nothing to joining like one of those, some people call them cults, but you could sort of like high intensity tribe workout gyms, and then they end up injuring themselves and they can't do
Yes.
anything for 6 months. I've got a physio I met once that said to me, thanks to this gym, my business has doubled in profit in the last couple of years because people just injure themselves and they just end up spending all this money at the physio.
And I have like that's the biggest one that I see. I'll have like people in their 50s who haven't trained in years and they'll do like a high intensity based training program, and I won't mention any gyms either. But they're doing the right thing. They're trying to get fit, but they can't do a squat properly, but they're doing squat jumps to a box.
Yep.
So they need to start with the basics first. Like, and so usually when I see people who still want to train at those gyms because of the community and get fit, I'll say just modify what you're doing and do a squat while everyone's doing squat jumps, and then eventually when you're strong enough, you build up to the squat jumps and
Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I love anything like that. Like I'm actually, we've got an episode coming up this week. We're going to be doing Pilates is the next thing, and so I'm all for group exercises, and it's great. You've got the competition, you've got everyone motivates each other, but yeah, I just see so many people getting they injure themselves, and the issue is, and I think this is probably why you ask people to gradually get into it, is that they get discouraged, don't they? Because it's you finally start exercising, you finally decide to sign up for a gym or somewhere, you start exercising, and then you injure yourself, and
Yeah.
it can get discouraging.
And like seeing a lot of people in their later years, like the gym I work at now has a lot of people in their 80s and even 90s. Uh, it's really a marathon, not a race, not a sprint. So
Mm.
you just need to make small increments over time. Like if people always come in and say they're too old, even if they're like 40 or something, but if you imagine for the next 30 years, you just add a little bit each time and no injuries and you're not taking time off all the time, yeah, you'll be a lot better off for it in the future.
Yeah, and am I right in saying that this also helps with motivation? Because I did a podcast episode years ago with a guy called Keith Abraham. He's like more of a motivational speaker. But something he said is like if somebody wants to exercise, what he sort of tells them is tomorrow morning, put your shoes on, walk to the mailbox and walk back home. And that's it. Next day,
Yeah.
put your shoes on and walk to the end of the street and walk back home. And then the next day after that, put your shoes on, walk 2 streets and or 2 blocks away and come back home. So just doing it slowly as well helps because it's like any goal. If you break it up into small pieces, it doesn't feel as draining, or it doesn't feel like it's as much effort.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Like that's exactly what I say. There's like a return to run program where it's like run to the lamppost, walk to the next lamppost, run to the lamppost. Just like small goals like that, and
Yeah.
then eventually run to 2 lampposts. And but that's the main thing. Like, and that's why probably in terms of motivation, goal setting's a huge thing to do.
Yes, it is. And I guess that relates to financial planning. With money, when I talk to clients, like having goals, having things to work towards makes a big difference. But just to go back to, like what you said, some people say they're too old for exercise. And like what you said, some people, I mean, ignoring health conditions for a moment, because obviously if someone has a particular health condition, that changes everything. But just in general, if someone's older, they're not as strong, not as fit. Joints usually aren't as strong as they probably were when they were in their 20s. What type of exercises should they be doing or could be doing?
Well, I think
Probably,
mostly,
probably quick wins, like things that are
yeah.
just really simple.
I think walking is really a gold standard. I actually used to do medicals for the mines and jobs and things, and the people that I talked to who walked most days were honestly overall the most fit people. And that was in terms of like all the testing, balance and strength. And so I reckon number one would be walking, which is an easy one for everyone to do.
Yeah, and is that walking as in because is it A because the person's moving,
Yeah,
or B is
yes.
or do you think it's because they're not sitting as well?
Yeah, both. Yeah. Because the current guidelines are like to try to get up every hour and move around. So
Yeah.
yeah, the more you're moving, the less. Same in terms of seeing people for physio with injuries. Generally, it's when the person hasn't been moving or much, or they're sedentary, or
Yes. And
yeah.
I heard this years ago actually from an insurance company. They were telling us like, because we do a lot of life insurance for our clients, and we always get told about trends and what type of claims are being done at the moment, and what insurance companies think, will be some pretty serious claims, or where they can see like a spike of claims in like 15, 20 years. And something I heard this years ago is that they say sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
where we're just sitting all the time, many different reasons, obviously. But yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that something as literally as simple as walking.
Yeah, even with a big one for people is weight loss. And we do a few like PD, like education sessions at the gym just to keep up on things. And the biggest thing you can change is actually your incidental activity and walking. So it is actually things like parking further from the shops, and it just gets you moving more.
Yes.
Loosens up your hips,
Or
everything
taking the
you need.
stairs instead of an elevator.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Actually, I never thought of that, parking far from the entrance of the
Yeah.
gym.
I usually and like I try to make things realistic too, because all my friends have kids and things now, and I say like if you have time and you're not in a rush, park further away. But obviously, if you're trying to get time poor and get things done,
No,
yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that because okay, so I've got a thing when we go to the shops. I like to find a good parking spot. Like I like a spot where it's not too narrow. You can get out of the car. You're not like, breaking your back getting out. There's less of a chance that someone's going to hit your car door. And sometimes there's some nice spots. Like sometimes the one near the trolley bay is pretty wide. Or I mean, every shopping center. Everyone has their favorite spot. And my wife hates it because sometimes I'll park really far and and as we're walking to the end, she's like, "You could have parked here," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's true." But
yeah,
now
yeah,
I've got an excuse. I can say, "No, this is good for us because this is good walking."
yeah,
And
exactly, exactly.
can I name drop you or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've written on pieces of paper for the husband to give a massage or something on the shoulders. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm definitely going to name drop you. Next time she
yeah,
blames me.
exactly.
What else apart from walking? What are some other things that are
I
pretty?
guess the biggest things on the recommendations, like this is on the government website for everyone, is strength training twice a week, trying to hit about 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity. So the biggest thing is like what's moderate physical activity, and that's just anything where you can still hold a conversation, but you've increased your heart rate,
Okay.
yeah, or you're breathing a bit faster.
Yep.
Um, and obviously, as you age, like balance is important for older adults. And the other recommendation is actually the sedentary behavior, trying to limit the sitting as much as you can.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And with walking, actually, just on that note, I know this episode is more health than relationships, but I literally just read an article last night talking about how good walking is for couples, for their relationship,
Yes.
and for our mental health. Like so many times, actually, I do it all the time. Like if I'm having an intense day, which is like every day, I'll just literally just if I've got a 10-minute break, I'll just go for a walk around the block or somewhere, and it just clears your mind. So just from a mental perspective, it actually is very helpful.
I was huge mentally and like getting that vitamin D in the sun. And like I'm a big hiker. Like I can definitely notice the weeks I haven't gone on a hike or something
Yeah.
mentally. Yeah.
Yes. And what about apart from walking? Sorry, the second thing you mentioned, so doing like some sort of some muscle building exercise, I think you mentioned, or
Yeah,
um,
yeah, some type of resistance training, which
yes.
is important for like bone loading and bone density as you grow older and risk of fracture.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on resistance bands? So, because for me, 3, 4 years ago, I went through a period where I was like obsessed with resistance bands. Like I found so many exercises. It's like they're literally you can buy them for like $10 from the shops,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
pay $20 for a really good one, and you can do everything on them, biceps, backs. You can do so many different exercises. What are your thoughts on that? And are there any other like really simple ways to do that type of exercise that you mentioned, that people can just do from home without having to get a gym membership?
Well, the way I prescribe resistance bands is still trying to make it measurable because the biggest thing for getting stronger and improving is either increasing your intensity, so the level of resistance, or increasing how many repetitions you're doing. So something has to be increasing over time. So if you're using a band, say for instance you're doing like a standing row where the band's around a pole and you're pulling it towards you, I'll tell people if you line up with a line and you start on a medium resistance band and you're doing 10 to 15 reps, over the next 5 weeks, maybe try stepping back an extra, maybe a tile on the floor at the house or something. So that way you know you're actually getting stronger and you're not just doing the same level every time.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like resistance band have their place. You just need to pretty much
Monitor.
like progress things. Yeah, monitor. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with resistance bands.
These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au. And even like there's a workout called is it a 7-minute workout, I think, where there's an app for it. There was a book written about it, but basically it's just some really basic stuff you can do at home. Like there's push-ups, wall sits, and yeah, I forgot the burpees. I think is one of them as well. Are there any other ones like that you could recommend to people as well?
Yeah, I reckon my go-to, and this can be scaled in the gym or at home, is squat, or sitting to a chair and standing up because it will work a lot of muscles and it's functional. Usually some type of push, so like you said, push-ups. If someone needs to regress that, they usually push up against the kitchen bench or something.
Yep.
Doing a pull, so to work your back. So that's one of the ones where you need maybe a band. There is some stuff you can do where you're lying on the floor or like a pull-up, but sometimes that's not as motivating or as fun as doing a band. And then some type of hinge movement. So whether that's like a bridge where you're lying on your back lifting your hips up or you're doing like a deadlift off the floor.
Yes.
That's like the four major where it targets your whole body. And then you can add things like in maybe like one core exercise and last one would be maybe a shoulder exercise. There's a lot of evidence for like bone loading if you're doing a bit of lifting overhead.
Yes.
So yeah, the three exercises that are actually recommended for bone loading are some type of deadlift, squat, and an overhead press.
Okay.
So the biggest thing at home is like just being able to scale that over time.
And you mentioned motivation. What are some tips that you can give to people to stay motivated? Because it's like anything. If someone buys a treadmill, if they start exercising, go to the gym, mate, the first day is amazing. The first week's amazing. Maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks are just you're a new person. You're posting it on social media, telling your friends, "Oh, you should come to this gym. It's amazing. It's so good." And 2 months later, you're not going anymore. Can you? What are some ways to stay motivated where you can, where just the things that you see just really, really work?
The biggest thing is for some reason everyone loves ticking things off. So the gym I work at has a template for a 5-week tracking sheet, and something has to be changing. So whether that's one repetition a week or adding a little bit of load each week, but just seeing that progression over time motivates people. And like setting goals as well. So, and the biggest thing is making them achievable too. If you're thinking like I can lift 20 kilos on a bench press today, I'm going to lift 100 in like a couple of months. Like it's unrealistic. So it has to be something that you can achieve so that when you do achieve it, this motivates you to keep going. But yeah, I think goal setting is the biggest.
I love that. Having a checklist. I actually did not even think of having a checklist.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, or even having it in your. The other thing I heard as well years ago, and it's actually helped me a lot, is put it in your diary. So actually have it as part of your routine every day or every week, where you have it literally a time blocked out for gym, for example. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to sort of go when you get the chance. And will you get the chance? Probably not. It's not going to just pop up by itself. Oh, I'm doing nothing. Let's go to the gym. So having it as a to-do list or having it in your calendar.
Yep,
I heard that years
100%.
ago.
And people are shocked when they come see me for physio because I pretty much never say don't train
Yep.
because I say to them, you're going to lose your routine. And like, say they hurt their leg, they can still train their upper body unless
Yes.
it's like really affecting them. But generally, I'll always say to do something.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. And also, actually, this is something else I heard years ago, and it helped me actually when I was doing resistance bands at home. It helped where if you include it as part of your routine and you give yourself a reward at the end. So for me, my reward was dinner. So I'd do it every night for 20 minutes. And I wouldn't have dinner till I've done it. And I found that helped because dinner for me was the reward, if that makes sense. Even if I was starving, I'd be like, look, I know it's probably not the most healthiest thing, but even if I was starving, I'm like, no, I'm doing this and I'll get to have dinner when I've done it. So,
No, that's good.
you
Yeah, I
know,
like that.
not so that's my thing anyway. But I think everyone will have their own motivations. For some people, it'll be a personal trainer. For some, it's going to be a friend. For some, it's going to be probably paying a high fee for gym membership. Normally when you're paying for something, you feel pushed to use it as well, compared to if you're paying $5 a week for something.
Yeah, and you're right too. Like, that's another good thing about like an exercise physiologist or someone that keeps you accountable. So like with those 5 week tracking sheets, we'll generally catch up on the fifth week, and then we'll plan their next 5 weeks.
Yes.
And that's a good catch up to make sure that if anything has been getting niggly or any injuries, we can tailor the program to fix that. And then if the program was too easy, we can make it harder. So, and then if motivation was a factor, we'll usually say also, even if you haven't gone to the gym in that 5 weeks, like come for the catch up because we can talk about the things of why that happened.
Hmm.
And do we have any ideas of how we can get you motivated?
So when should someone see you, Andrew? Like if they're, I mean, I'm sure there's many different reasons, but in this context, like is it if they are thinking of getting into exercise, but they're worried about health, structural issues with their body, they would probably see you first to get a bit of a plan, to have that accountability, to work out what they should avoid, what they should focus on, and to help you put that plan together for them.
Yeah, yeah, and just kind of an assessment too, and see what that level they're at. A lot of people will push too hard. Like a lot of people are hard on themselves, and they'll push too hard too quick, and it's just like letting them know what they can do. But we see all ranges. Like I've seen parents have brought their kids in because they've started to train with their friends at school, and they just want to make sure their son's not getting injured.
Yes.
So like I actually like those ones because you catch them early, and I get to show them like how you progress the squat early on. Don't ego lift, and yeah.
Don't be a hero.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
which you see a lot of kids in the gyms doing that, and I'm sure we were all there once. I'm sure I was there too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, mate, when I was a teenager, at one stage, all I did was arms. So
yeah,
I think we all did. So we would walk around wanting big biceps, to show off, oh, I've got good big biceps, but you'd have chicken legs, no back, nothing else. If you had to run 400 meters, you'd probably die because you couldn't handle it. So it's one of those things where
part of
we'd,
life.
yeah, pretty much. And we're all influenced by people around us and, friends and I think that's why it helps to have someone like you to go to a gym with someone maybe that or to have a good environment around you, and those community workout things that we talked about earlier, that's probably where they play a part as well, because you've got people around you, as long as it's healthy.
Yeah, and it's hard not to compare yourself to other people, but like you never know if someone in the gym's been there for 20 years training and you've been there for like 6 months. Like you
Yep.
can't compare yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. And are there any horror stories or success stories? Actually, let's focus on the positive. Are there any success stories that you'd like to share as well? Like someone could be listening to this right now, thinking, I should probably do that, but probably are there any
Well,
highlights or any moments that that come to mind as we're talking about this, where you think, no, you know what, this was someone that I saw, and this was the outcome.
yeah, I use one fella a lot. Only for a good example for people of how little you do have to do just to see results. I started seeing him last year, and he was 84, and like he walks a lot, so he's not unfit. But he came in wanting to start doing resistance training, and the biggest thing with him, so when he first came in, he couldn't stand up and sit down from like a 50 centimeter box. We've gotten to the stage now where he can stand and squat from a 40 centimeter box holding a 10-kilo weight in his hands. And all he did to achieve that was 2 times a week for half an hour, the same 5 or 6 exercises, just progressing over time. And that would have taken probably 6 to 8 months. And the biggest thing with him that made him achieve those goals was that he barely ever missed a week. If he did miss a session, it was maybe one session a week, but he was very consistent. And so, out of everyone I train, you can always see the consistency is the key. So, like, and he came back and he's like, now I can throw the grandkids in the air. I can like move better. And like, he's turning 85 this year.
Wow.
So it's pretty much, and we've got millions of success stories like that at the gym that I work at. We see a lot of veterans. So yeah, it's pretty much never too late to start. And all he was doing was 2 half-an-hour sessions a week. And like I said, it was the exercises I actually said to you earlier. It was one squat, one push exercise, one deadlift, one pull exercise, one core exercise. And that might have actually been it for the whole time. Which brings me to another point too, actually. People tend to they feel like they have to change exercises a lot, but the progression, the consistency is the key. So sometimes people can actually change exercises too much, which will stop them getting results because they're constantly getting used to a new exercise, and they're not actually. progressing something over time.
That makes a lot of sense. And to me, a story like that, I think I can relate to. I'm not 85, but I can
Yeah, yeah,
relate to it because for me, when I started exercising properly, I was able to play with my kids more and just do stupid stuff around the house and just wrestle with them and stuff. Whereas when I wasn't as fit, I'd sort of feel pain or, just feel a lot more tired. And I think, and I've got another, 4 decades till I'm 85. But the
yeah,
thing is, as you can imagine, as anyone can imagine, as you get older, it just becomes more important to focus on these things because, and I talk to clients about it actually when we talk about what they want to do. We talk about retirement and what their life's going to look like. Something we say a lot is, we discuss them playing with their grandkids or picking up the grandkids or taking them here or taking them there and being able to walk for 2 hours in Europe when they start traveling and, things like that. So that's awesome. And yeah, and you know what? If an 85-year-old can do it, then I think anyone listening to this doesn't really have much of an excuse.
no, and the biggest thing too is it's not like he was killing himself either.
Mm,
Like it's not like we were really hammering him or pushing him. Like I mean, he'd work hard towards the week 5 regions, but we were just progressing a rep each week or adding a little bit of weight each week, and that's all it takes really
yeah,
to build up that strength.
yeah, and having someone like you to help them to give them that plan.
Yes,
That's a big one.
yeah, some good talks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And Andrew, if anybody wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, at the moment, I work at Campbell Physiotherapy and Exercise Centre, and I also work at, which is, yeah, and then I also work at Victoria Point at Movement for Health. So, yeah, I'm doing exercise physiology at Movement for Health and physio and exercise physiology at Camp Hill. But otherwise, also, I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I usually talk a bit on that.
Yep.
That's probably the best way to contact me, I think.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
And lastly, Andrew, I like to finish all my episodes off with a dad joke.
yeah, yeah.
And there was actually lots of dad jokes about gyms and exercise.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I think I found a new page I could start stealing jokes from. But I think you'll like this one.
yeah.
It's actually mixed. It's a mix of financial planning and exercise. Anyway, why did the fitness coach go to the bank
I don't know.
to work on his balance?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Not bad. Not bad. Or there was
yeah.
why did the gym goer break up with the gym?
Oh, no, I don't know that one.
It just wasn't working out.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's actually the other day on Facebook, I watched this video. It's like it's not real, obviously, but it's just these kids. It's a video with the sad music in the background, and these kids are just talking about how they're traumatized because of their dad's jokes when they were kids,
Yeah.
when they were younger. And it's just so funny. Just like it's a whole, like there was one where one kid goes, "Oh, I went to my dad and I told him I was hungry, and he said, 'Hi, hungry.'" And
Oh,
then
my dad
and,
used that on me for my whole life.
yeah, and then the kid's sad, and there's all this music in the background, just the kids they're just pretending that they're traumatized from that.
Yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
bringing back childhood memories for me.
oh wait, there's always a new one. There's always a new one that pops up as well, but they're always good.
Yeah.
But Andrew, thank you so much for your time, mate. Again, I really appreciate it, and I was honestly so excited to record this episode, and I'm so excited for people to listen to it, and hopefully
Yeah,
they
that's
get
good.
something out of it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.